Before we begin, a warm thank you to the Yale Center of Customer Insights for bringing together such a thoughtful community and for hosting today's conversations. Events like this one are exactly where rigorous research and real-world practice meet, and we're grateful for this space. Now to our speaker. Amanda is Senior Vice President of Global Marketing Strategy, Insights, and Transformation at Mastercard, a role she stepped into last year after 5 years of progressively leading the company's insights and transformation agenda for North America. In her current role, she connects cultural intelligence, customer research, and future thinking to Mastercard global marketing strategy, helping one of the world's most iconic brands understand not just where consumers are, but where they are headed to. During her time at Mastercard, she has brought cultural lens to some of the most consequential topics shaping commerce today: the metaverse, the creators economy, the future of travel and retail, crypto, and digital sustainability. Before Mastercard, Amanda spent over 5 years at Live Nation Entertainment, where she created and led the company's first ever consultative insights practice. Amanda is a Boston College graduate, and in her own words, a strategist, a social scientist dedicated to scaling intelligence and creating impact. Please join me in welcoming Amanda Fraga.
Thank you so much, Larissa. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Ravi, and the entire team that's put on this event. It's so wonderful to be surrounded by such an engaged community that cares so much about the future of marketing. And I'm really excited today to share with you a bit more about how at Mastercard we're thinking not just about AI, but actually the idea of augmented intelligence. How do we think about creating possibility in a world that's shifting into agentic commerce and an agentic world? But also thinking about the speed of culture and how we can shape that and bring that into what we do every day. Today, brands are facing a lot of challenges if we think about the visibility and how we show up, and if we think about how we are relevant today. So before I jump into the thesis of this conversation, I thought I'd just start with something fun. Many of us come from classic branding worlds, and the world has quite evolved. If you think back to the ultimate sign of success is that your brand becomes a noun, a verb, an action in culture, right? You think about the 1950s when Kleenex became the coined term for a tissue, or you think about the early 2000s when Googling became a common term. I am curious to hear your thoughts later today about what do you think it's going to be for all the LLMs, ChatGPTing, et cetera. What will that terminology be to you? But for Mastercard, while you might use our brand name when you're thinking about, hey, I tapped my Mastercard at the subway station to get in frictionless and quickly, we also think about the idea of priceless as a platform for our brand. Perhaps you remember almost 30 years ago, the iconic ad that was aired about a father and his son and bringing him to a baseball game, and it being so much more than just a transaction alone. It's about the experience that Mastercard and that idea of priceless enables. And so if we think about the idea of priceless, it really pulls together the emotional value, the human connection, and lived experience that we're quite proud of. And that human meaning is not necessarily a nice to have for us. So especially in an AI-driven world, it's actually the differentiator. And over the years, we haven't lost sight of that. Of course, a lot has changed, but it's always been woven through our brand. Whether we think about the priceless experiences that we bring to consumers to make those special, iconic moments happen, whether we think about inclusivity and purpose and how it brings people together through our True Name program, which allows you to use your chosen name on your card. Or lastly, even as we think about empowering and thriving small business owners and creators with our Business Builder program in North America, there's so much that priceless really bleeds through, and our brand lives and breathes humanness. So it's important, especially in this AI world, to really maintain that stance. And we know the landscape for payments is changing more than ever before. It's a super exciting time. But we're much more than just a payments brand alone. We sit on so much transactional data. We really want to think about how we can bring meaning to that data and to consumers and to grow our business. We're all feeling it, right? The AI whiplash is real. One day you hear, Etsy's integrating into ChatGPT, another day it's not, right? The whiplash that we're feeling is quite challenging. And we're caught in between that as marketers. The extreme optimism, the existential risk that we face. Artificial intelligence obviously brings speed and scale. But we have to think about how is it impacting creativity? We've all heard of AI slop. What about cultural signals and misinterpreting them when it doesn't make sense in the environment in which you're sharing it? Or trust, what does that look like when we create automation without context around that automation? This creates both risk and opportunity. And so we really want to think about how we can embrace humanity as a brand, ensure credibility and reassurance, or we truly could cease to exist as brands today. So we're at this cultural tension point, right? And as an insights person, I love a tension point because we can really break through. How do we use that speed, scale, and automation as the wind behind our sails without losing sight of the creativity, cultural thinking, or critical thinking, and curiosity that so many of us love and employ and bring to our roles every day? And while many brands may stumble in this mix, it's not necessarily because of technology failing, it's actually because human intelligence is removed from the system. So I want to share a framework with you today in terms of how we think about, not just thinking about humans versus machines, but humans with machines. So AI can't be a replacement for judgment, right? It's a collaborator, a way to explore uncertainty, surface signals, and even empower better human decision-making. And on the other side, authentic intelligence, human cultural knowledge, nuances in different markets, especially when you're a global brand, matter so much. How do we make sure that we're moving fast, but also that we're designing trust in our experiences? So AI might scale capability, but also authentic intelligence can really preserve judgment. So let me share 2 case studies with you today for some inspiration around how we brought this to life at Mastercard. So first, one of the challenges that we faced was, if you're in ChatGPT, if you're in an LLM and you're searching for a question and we don't show up, you can't buy Mastercard, right? And we're a B2B2C organization, so there's many business decision makers that are looking for cyber intelligence solutions, that are looking for stablecoin solutions. We need to show up and be relevant in that moment and be visible. And then also, all of our shopping and commerce experiences as consumers are changing today as well. How do we go through that flow of purchasing in an agentic environment? And we know that's going to be changing day by day, and ensure that you feel trusted, protected, and that your transaction is going to go through as you originally planned. So first, the challenge was visibility, right? In an agentic world, discovery collapses. There's many stats here that show the power of agentic and how quickly it's going to be transforming agentic commerce. But visibility for all of our brands today is no longer guaranteed. There's, AI collapses that discovery. There's fewer links, fewer brands, and if you're not in a model's learned representation, you truly may not exist. So we need to think about how brand risk is being disintermediated and solve for that. And one way we've approached that is, and many of you, I'm sure in the room, have thought about how you shift from SEO to AEO. But AEO obviously is optimizing for intent. So in this conversational world, we want to make sure that visibility is earned through relevance, not just repetition. Trust is built through understanding and not just claims, and that brands don't interrupt, they assist. So this works well because on the right-hand side, you can see here, we've thought about not just the AI component of that AEO, but what are the things that we can bring into the conversation to make sure we're rising to the top when people are thinking about Mastercard as a solution or service provider? And many of these are framing up that authentic intelligence. If we think about the tone, the conversational way in which we're connecting to people, if we think about the credibility and not just speaking about ourselves, but having others speak about us or influence in those who are bringing influential perspectives to the markets as experts in that area. So really thinking about how you can make sure you're using the system smartly in a way that is truly authentic and bringing in that human lens is super important in this environment. And so many of you might have heard the term stablecoin, but perhaps you don't know all the details, and that might not be unlike a potential customer for us who's thinking about who's the right provider for me when I think about we're integrating stablecoin into my environment. So when we think about how we had shifted our AEO, we thought about what are the questions that people might be asking around stablecoin. Things like, what are the benefits of using crypto solutions in B2B transactions? What are enterprise stablecoin solutions for payment processing? Not just thinking about the words they might search for, but how it might fit into the context of their business. And so we used AI and agent listening tools to bring those questions to life, and the result was fantastic. We're able to create content again with that really contextual lens, bringing relevance, that human lens to the scenario to really inform a lot of our content and storytelling that was much more engaging. You can see some of it here, which is fantastic. And we're able to move ourselves, particularly in stablecoin area, from number 5 to 3 in the category. We also were able to increase our website and newsroom LLM content by 79% and drive higher engagement with traffic compared to non-LLM solutions as well. So great to layer in not just the AI, but that authentic intelligence, human lens of relevance, and again, making sure our brand shows up and is visible. So that was the front end of a commerce experience in a B2B world. What about when it comes to B2C and how we may be shopping in an agentic commerce landscape moving forward as consumers? Our brand has a really rich history in terms of how we think about how we show up. We know 95% of decisions are made subconsciously, right? So we've evolved from that trusted symbol of just our logo to thinking about what's the sound when you tap to pay, to what does that haptic feeling feel like when you touch to pay. But visibility isn't alone enough. We need to think about when you shop in store, in social, online, how commerce becomes faster and how we are there every step of the way. But then what comes next? When we think about an agentic commerce experience, essentially your brand can actually disappear in that experience. And for Mastercard, it's incredibly important to be able to reinforce trust. When agents become invisible and you're delegating actions to them, how are you going to know that you're trusted? So we've been thinking a lot about how to make sure that we are integrated into the process so consumers feel secure, protected, and safe as they transact. And so we've launched Agent Pay, which is a new level of trusted AI-powered commerce in making sure that the decisions that you've actually made, what you've planned on purchasing and your agent is doing on behalf of you, actually signals that that transaction has happened the way you intended it to do so. And there's so much happening in this space, and it's changing day by day, so it's been incredibly exciting to be agile and nimble as these shifts happen. But that idea of creating trust signals and confidence for consumers has really made that invisible layer feel real through motion, sound, feel, and really make sure that you feel, again, safe, accepted, and protected along the way. The second case study I'm going to share is an exciting one around travel. I'm sure many of us either have traveled internationally this year or are planning a trip ahead. And this is a really important part of Mastercard's business. When you use your card from one country to another, we're making incremental funds there, incremental volume from a lot of those transactions. And so it's a business challenge as well as a consumer challenge to be relevant in the right moments. And when you think about a large global organization and you think about traveling and what that looks like from China to Spain, it's really quite different. So we can't lose sense of the unique cultural nuances that exist in each market. So in a world where micro trends have life cycles measured in weeks, not seasons, how can marketers really make sure they're maintaining cultural relevance and deliver tangible value? So we know travel is shifting, and it's an emotionally charged area of the industry. It's market-specific when you're thinking about planning campaigns. And AI is really trained on the past, not the future. So how do we think about, again, that authentic intelligence and cultural signals really informing our strategy? So marketing, in this instance, needs to be able to move in real time, but sometimes our current systems haven't been able to keep pace. So we've designed a system that actually allows us to bring business intelligence, cultural and consumer insight together, along with marketing assets that are in each individual market to enable our entire marketing force with smart decisioning. Let's take a look.
Reality is being created around us in real time. We have entered a transformative paradigm shift powered by the rise of AI. The great transformation has begun, and our future success hinges on the way people discover and experience our brand. At Mastercard, we don't believe the future belongs to smarter machines alone. It belongs to better judgment, grounded in people, in culture, in context. Marketing now demands nuance at velocity, but in global organizations where specialized teams work at incredible depth, the challenge isn't skill, it's orchestration. This is where artificial meets authentic intelligence, unlocking greater agility and democratizing insight into strategic actions. And in international travel, where origin-destination dynamics are continuously evolving, a deep understanding of market realities isn't just valuable, it's essential. Our cross-border travel marketing navigator combines consumer insight, including simulated personas, cultural signals, and business data with available brand assets to help design marketing activations at speed and scale. It's artificial intelligence to augment human judgment, creating possibility at the speed of culture.
So this truly is a prototype beta that we've launched internally. So this is very happening real time of what I'm bringing to you. But you think about the travel industry, and things are changing every single day, whether it's geopolitics, conflicts in certain areas, staffing shortages at airports. You know, every day it feels like something is changing. And there's also cool, interesting cultural trends that we're all following, what the latest creators are doing when they travel. There's medical tourism. There's so many different areas of travel that force us to be nimble and move with culture and also react to the current market realities. And so we wanted to be able to create a system that would really allow us to react in an agile way with a lot of these changes. So that system that I just mentioned is really that new operating system for real-time marketing. So, business intelligence. We sit on a wealth of transaction-level data by different market in different categories. And to this point, that data has been really challenging for marketers to be able to move with nimbly. So we've created this bot for you to be able to pull what are the different behaviors that are happening in a specific corridor to be able to inform your strategy. Next, we layer on cultural and consumer intelligence. We've got AI set up to scrape and understand what's happening from a cultural perspective, but we also have a human level of curation and trust, looking at what's happening in different markets from the ground up to be able to inform this bot as well. We also are bringing in consumer profiles, simulated personas, and we're using particularly simulated versus synthetic personas because it is actually based on segmentation research and understanding who are the different groups that are traveling the most and what's their motivation. Is it business travel and they tacked on another week to have fun? Is it bringing their family together for a priceless experience and moment? Is it a female solo traveler and she's concerned about her safety? These are all important things to think about when we're trying to reach that end consumer. So bringing in that knowledge is incredibly important. We use those cultural signals and those consumer insights also to derive which corridors we should then be focusing on and pulling that knowledge from to then activate. And we've also brought in a tech stack of all of our marketing assets. We've got sponsorship events happening in markets. We've got different product benefits in different markets available. We've got different issuers in every different market, merchants that we need to partner with. It's incredibly complex, the varied information that we have. So how do we make sure that we're empowering marketers with all that information at their fingertips through this bot to be able to plan a really awesome creative brief. And the output of this goes into a creative brief and informs the strategy so that it can be really that nuanced layer of, again, combining artificial intelligence with authentic intelligence to create augmented intelligence. And like I mentioned, this is very much in progress, and we're kind of dealing with moving nimbly from one challenge to another. But what I think is really interesting is just highlighting some of the very different cultural nuances, again, by market that we see. So in China, where we just opened acceptance about 2 years ago, it's a really big task to get Mastercard, in your digital wallet, and we know it's a highly digital environment. So we want to make sure that upon landing there, you're adding your card to your wallet immediately so that you can spend digitally and through some of the social media apps that exist, Alipay, WeChat, et cetera, in that market. It's a very particular nuance. And so, within the subway terminals in Beijing as an example, you can use you can get a benefit and use your card there and add it in your digital wallet all at the same time, and then also be prepared to use it anywhere else that you pay. But think about, you get off that plane, you get onto the subway, and then your card's there for the rest of your trip, which is fantastic. The second area is Spain. We've all read the articles. We know there's been over-tourism and challenges there. So we've really leveraged a lot of our priceless experiences, partnered with creator-led experiences that are really making a more authentic experience and one that gives back to the community more available in that market. And in Brazil, we even see, obviously Carnival is a huge experience there and a big one that folks travel for. And it's a challenge there to be able to have fun and party, but also not be worrying about your wallet and having money stolen. So the market there used payment technology in jewels, as you can see as this woman is wearing, to be able to pay for things while she's having fun at Carnival. So this just showcases the breadth of dynamism, I think, in terms of cultural nuance, and how all of this authentic intelligence can really complement AI today. And so lastly, I'm guessing many of you in the room may not be from a payments brand, but I think we all face the same challenge of AI being everywhere and feeling the pressure of that whiplash. So how do we think about, capturing that, taking control of it, as Jenny shared earlier, and thinking about how we can augment AI with that human intelligence and integrating that into your tech stack? We want to make sure our brands, at the very least, remain visible, relevant, and also trusted. So remember, the most important intelligence isn't artificial, it's augmented. Thank you so much for your time. So I'd love to take a few questions from the audience if we have any volunteers. Anything you're curious about or anything that strikes you? Here we go. We've got one right here. I think a mic is coming down to you in just a moment.
Hi. I have a very tactical question.
Sure.
If you're willing to share. One, I'm very impressed that you're standing up there in those shoes. Two, I'm curious what tools you're using, both for the AEO and for the, you said not synthetic audience, but I loved the simulated, which I love the distinction.
Yeah.
If you're willing to share what those tools are that you're using.
Yeah. We're using Perplexity for a lot of the AEO.
Yeah.
And that was one of our first test case scenarios, but now it's really spread across all the different areas that we're using. But the simulated personas, and I can't take credit for that. Please Google or ChatGPT synthetic versus simulated. It's a brilliant differentiation there. I think the past decade, I would say there's been some language around segmentation is dead, right? We actually think there's actually, given this moment, I think it's very important for us to actually understand consumers qualitatively and quantitatively. So using segmentation. And then we have a platform through Stravito where we are housing all of our intelligence. So first, it's called Insight Studio. First, it's a repository of all of the research that we've run. And it's basically a protected environment that's really allowing us to make sure we have control and curation over all the studies that are in this environment. And then we've also done that segmentation, so we've got personas in there, so we can do synthetic research with those personas, but it's truly based on real humans, right? Rather than just fictionalizing, the female single traveler and all the stereotypes that we might have, right? We want to make sure that we're really informing those personas, and I imagine we'll need to refresh them and keep them up to date. But the benefit is that we're using that repository to constantly inform all of our research moving forward, which is great. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Hello. I have a question on how you're preparing for the fact that consumers are also using AI to evaluate your products versus your competitors. Self-disclosure, I uploaded all the terms and conditions of all my credit cards to AI, and I asked for them to recommend which card to use.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, it's a great question. We're applying that same lens of AEO for business decision makers in some of our products to also partnering with our issuers, because our issuers are really on the front lines of communicating those benefits. And we enable some of them, right? So we're partnering with them to make sure that they're highlighting them in the most effective way as well. Yeah, great question. And many consumers, you all should be doing that. Get the best cards in your wallet that will work hardest for you, for sure. Great question. Got a question here? I think a mic's coming down to you.
So I'm curious as to this whole issue of trust in AI. And I'm wondering from your experience whether you saw what is working and what is not working in building trust where AI augmented products are concerned. Yeah, absolutely. I know there's such an interesting tension, I think, between innovation and trust. We need to be seen as both, right? You can't be not, if you're not using AI at all as a brand, you're not being seen as innovative. But if you take a misstep in the way in which you're using AI, you lose that trust really quickly, right? And trust is the foundation of any way in which anyone engages with your brand. So I think, part of what we're doing is making sure as we launch things that we are doing a lot of the research ahead of time to make sure that we can instill confidence before we go to market. So for example, that agent pay experience that I mentioned, many different iterations of testing that we've gone through to make sure people are feeling really trusted and secure at that moment. But at the end of the day, what Mastercard is known for is our trust in making sure your transaction goes through as planned, making sure you feel protected if it doesn't. And so as we think about agentic commerce and how that's evolving, making sure that we're showing up in a way that really instills the signals and how you've delegated control to think about how it might move forward in the future. So a wealth of consumer insights and research to back it up. And then I think being also just really transparent, I think is quite important too with where we're headed with a lot of these different initiatives as well. So both consumers and our customers alike can see the roadmap of where we're heading with some of these areas. And I think it's also important to showcase how we're innovating and progressing with the payments category, with blockchain, with crypto, with stablecoin. I think consumers and customers today are looking for brands who are being provocative and stepping forward into the future. So a very careful, delicate balance between the both of those. And I have a whole presentation on trust if you ever want to dive deeper too. Any other last questions?
Hi. It sounds like you have a great program. When I think about the agentic model, and you talk about kind of the process that it's handling for your marketing team now, it's a lot of efficiency that's adding right now. So how do you balance in the future, because that's this year, but 3 years from now, it's going to become even more efficient. So at the executive level, still creating that value for the marketing team when they see, hey, this tool is basically, we don't need this size of a team anymore because you created this tool that created this efficiency.
Yeah, I guess there's two parts of that. So one, we've done it for cross-border travel, but this formula could be used across any different business priority. This is a proof of concept that we've built and we're testing to make sure that it's bulletproof before we scale it much larger. So I think it's important to take the learnings. And we have set KPIs in terms of the effectiveness of this tool as well, and are making sure we look at those to make sure it's saving time, it's actually bringing more quality to the work that we're doing as well. So I think it's important to balance the both of those. But I think what the second part of your question, what it ultimately does is I think it actually, and I'm a bit of an AI optimist. I know there's a lot of differing perspectives, but I think it really rises the tides for all. I think it actually allows us to all elevate and interpret and become more strategic in making recommendations. If you're just using the tool and pushing it out there without actually thinking about what does this really mean, what is this so what, and how can I action on this in a smart way, we're really not doing our job. So I'm hoping it opens up mental capacity to think about what you can do with this tool. And then, I think sky's the limit in terms of the creativity that we can employ from having that base level of knowledge and data. Great, thank you so much.